Dear students, today let us read and understand the very first poem of 10th standard, Grandma Climbs a Tree, written by Ruskin Bond. Let's look at the title of the poem, Grandma Climbs a Tree. Grandma going to a temple or cooking or spending time with her grandchildren is natural activity. But here the title itself evokes surprise in us. Grandma climbing a tree, it is uncommon, unusual, or a strange event. Here in this poem, the poet speaks about his granny who continues her childish habits and desires. Before we begin this poem, let's know about the poet Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond, born in Kasauli in 1934. He now lives in Missouri. He wrote his first novel, The Room on the Roof, when he was 17 and has written more than 30 books for children. Grandma Climbs a Tree shows Bond's great ability to enjoy unusual events and actions. In his autobiography, Scenes from a Writer's Life, Bond talks about his Calcutta granny as a strange person who sat alone in the evenings playing Patience, a card game. Now, I'll read and explain the poem Grandma Climbs a Tree, stanza by stanza. Grandma Climbs a Tree. In the first stanza, my grandmother was a genius. You'd like to know why? Because she could climb trees spreading or high. She would be up their branches in a trice, and mind you, when last she climbed a tree, she was 62. Ever since childhood, she would had this gift for being happier in a tree than in a lift. The very first sentence in the opening statement very strongly and very proudly declares that Grandma was a genius. Grandma means an old woman or an elderly person. So here the poet's grandmother was a genius. Here genius means the person having an exceptional ability or the person with extraordinary intelligence or skill. So here the grandma could do something different compared to the normal people. On the second sentence, the poet is raising question to the readers. If the readers are curious to know why his grandma was a genius. And on the third sentence, he reveals the truth. He says that his grandma was a genius because she could climb the trees. She could climb any kind of trees, whether the trees are spreading or high. She would reach their branches in a trice, means very quickly. Last time when she climbed a tree, she was 62 years old. And she had this gift from childhood. That means she started climbing a tree since her childhood. So grandma feels happy whenever she is in the top of the tree than in a lift. In the second stanza, and though as years went by, she would be told that climbing trees should stop when one grew old, and that growing old should be gone about gracefully. She would laugh and say, well, I'll grow disgracefully. I can do it better. And we had to agree, for in all the garden there wasn't a tree. For many years, Grandma was climbing a tree, and everyone used to tell her to stop climbing trees because she was growing old day by day. Old age should be passed gracefully. She has to spend her time by taking rest. But to their response, what she used to do, she used to laugh and say that by climbing trees, if she grows disgracefully, she will accept that. She knew that she could climb the tree perfectly, and she was not going to stop that. And all the family members had to agree whatever grandma said, because they knew that grandma was stubborn. The grandma used to climb the trees of her own garden, so there was not even a single tree left to be climbed by the grandmother. In the third stanza, she hadn't been up at one time or another, having learned to climb from a loving brother when she was 6. But it was feared by all that one day she would have a terrible fall. The outcome was different. While we were in town, she climbed a tree and couldn't come down. The grandma had climbed all the trees of her garden. When she was 6 years old, her loving brother taught her how to climb the tree. So, from 6 years till 62, she continued climbing the tree. Everyone was worried that she would have a terrible fall one day. The result was different one day. When all the family members were in the town, grandma was alone in the village. On that day, she climbed the tree and couldn't come down. That means she was stuck in the tree. In the fourth stanza, after the rescue, the doctor took Granny's temperature and said, "I strongly recommend a quiet week in bed." We sighed with relief and tucked her up well. Poor Granny, for her it was like a brief season in hell, confined to her bedroom while every breeze whispered of summer and dancing leaves. The villagers helped her and brought her down. After the rescue, the doctor was also called. As grandma was stuck up in the tree, she was scared and she had fever. So the doctor took Granny's temperature and advised that she needed a complete bed rest for a week. When we, here we refers to the family members of the poet, heard this, they took a deep breath with relief. They were very happy because at least for 1 week they don't need to worry about grandma. Every day grandma used to climb the tree, and every day they had a fear that grandma would fall. So when grandma takes the rest, she doesn't climb the tree, and the family members need not to be worried about her. So they started taking care of grandma. But for the poor granny, how was her situation? Her situation was like a brief season in hell, because she could not go outside her bedroom. She could not go out and enjoy the nature. She could not do anything, while every breeze whispered of summer and dancing leaves. In the fifth stanza, but she had held her peace till she felt stronger. Then she sat up and said, "I lie here no longer." And she called for my father and told him undaunted that a house in a treetop was what she now wanted. My dad knew his duties. He said, "That's all right. You'll have what you want, dear. I'll start work tonight." Grandmother, for a week she did not say anything. She just held her peace. But after the completion of 1 week, she sat up and said that she was not going to stay like that. She called my father means the poet's father, and told him without hesitation that she wanted a house in the treetop. That was her demand. My dad knew his duties very well. He loved his mother very much, So he was going to fulfill all the desires of his mother. So what he said that he was going to do the thing said by his mother. So father didn't wait for the next day to start the work. He started the work that night itself. In the 6th stanza, the last stanza, with my expert assistance, he soon finished the core, made her a tree house with windows and a door. So Granny moved up, and now every day I climb to her room with glasses and tray. She sits there in state and drinks sherry with me, upholding her right to reside in a tree. Here, the poet's father, taking the help of expert assistants, started the work on the very night. The tree house was made with windows and a door. So Granny moved up and started living in the tree house. Every day, the poet used to go to the grandmother's house with glasses and tray. The grandma used to drink sherry with the poet. Sherry means a brown or yellow colored wine. So she was very happy staying in her tree house and started thinking herself as a queen and her tree house as her palace. So this is all about the poem Grandma Climbs a Tree. I hope you have understood the poem. Thank you for listening.